Our next speaker is the Vice President of the American Society of Composers, Authors, and Publishers, better known to the world as ASCAP, and he knows his way around many a hit. In fact, he's even written a book called Murphy's Law of Songwriting. So in this session, let's meet Ralph Murphy, who will reveal, I've lost the power of speech as well, some secrets behind a smash hit song. Ralph, come on out, guy.
It's nice to follow a winner. Where's my phone? Come on, come on. Anyway, I've been hearing a lot over the last couple of days about content and transmission services and selling stuff and doing whatever. I haven't really heard a lot about the song, and I'm a past president of the Nashville Songwriters Association. I started the New York Songwriters Association back in the 70s. I'm a radical political activist, son of a bitch songwriter for songwriters, so that's just me. Anyway, I'm supposed to provide you with the secret bullet, with the magic sauce. Well, there is, kind of. So, beginning with the song. Everything begins with a song, okay? Now, one thing I just want to point out to you. When someone says, it's not the money, they're full of shit. It's not the money, it's the money, okay? So, for you as a writer, to earn a living doing what you love doing is all important. You've got to do it. If you don't do it, life would be a hell. I think behind every successful songwriter is an astonished mother-in-law. So, anyway, moving right along. Every year, I'm going to read this because this is my little leash, because I'm actually doing 1 hour's worth of stuff in 30 minutes. And I'm also supposed to speak slowly. So, yahoo, here we go. Hold on. Every year, for 3 weeks over Christmas, I punish myself by gathering all the songs that have been #1 on both the Billboard pop and country charts and study them by genre for things that they have in common. The reason I do this, and have done it for many years, is that our industry relies heavily on what was just successful as a projection for what will be successful. So for me, as a writer and a publisher, I need to have this information. I also study country and I study pop because they're marketed differently. And I can actually see what the consumer wants. When you go fishing, you don't think like the fisherman, you think like the fish. You need to know what that human animal is expecting to hear, okay? So country, you listen into the song. It goes 14, 18, 28 weeks to #1, stays there for 2 weeks and drops off. With pop, it goes in through social media, YouTube, MTV, whatever, goes to #1 and then tails off over 17 to 28, 32 weeks. So they're inverted charts, but there's a lot of communality in there, which means the listener expects to receive information a certain way. I've had hits in all genres as a writer, and had hits in all countries as a writer. All that changed was vocabulary and technology, okay? So, moving vapidly along, prepare to be bored for the next 3 minutes, because I'm going to give you some data, and then I will extrapolate the data for you. Actually, let me put my glasses on so I can actually see the data. At #1 on the Billboard pop charts, the song will be mid to up tempo. At least 2/3 of all #1 pop hits last year were 100 beats per minute or more. And those records spent 2/3 of the year at #1. Women featured prominently in pop at #1, with 75% of the records having a woman either as the artist or featured. However, the gender of writers who wrote on #1s, women were only about 20%, or 8 out of 42. There was an average 8-second intro. The extremes are Maroon 5 and Rihanna with 0 start, or Gotcha with 28 seconds. As a matter of fact, Gotcha is an anomaly for a whole lot of reasons, but we'll get into that in a bit. All the number ones but LMFAO, Sexy and I Know It, use the pronoun you within 20 seconds of the start of the lyric. And this is very important, how you engage the listener and invite them in. The pronoun you is all important. Almost all, obeyed the two, almost all, except Diamonds, Rihanna, and We Are Young, obeyed the 2-minute rule. There's a thing at radio called the 2-minute wall, and you will find it goes across all the genres. The listener apparently gets bored around 2 minutes to 2 minutes and 30 seconds and needs something different to happen musically. And they all got to the middle 8 or something ear-catching by at least 2 minutes and 30 seconds. However, most were closer to 2 minutes. Repetitions range from 5 to 38. Diamonds by Rihanna. Apparently, you can't get enough diamonds. The average overall was 7 repetitions. All involved love in one form or another. And to quote my pal Jay Frank, the theme of the songs in pop dance range from, boy, I'd love to do ya, to, hey, I'm doing ya, to, I'm tired of doing ya, to, let's party. Those are the themes. Well, of course, this year you had LMFAO with Check Me Out, I'm Sexy and I Know It. So, best bet for number 1. 100 beats per minute or more, featuring a woman as the artist, having an 8-second intro, using the pronoun you within 20 seconds of the start of the song, getting to the bridge, middle 8, between 2 and 2 minutes and 30 seconds, averaging 7 repetitions of title, creating an expectation, then fulfilling that expectation in the title within 60 seconds. There is also a 70% chance that you will be the artist. Okay, that's pop. Now, country, we move over to the other side of the country. Country Billboard number 1s in the United States, there were 34 number 1 records on the Billboard country charts last year, almost 3 times the number of ones as were on the pop charts. Note that 2/3 of those records had the artist writing on it, up from a high the year before, where only 50% of the artists wrote on their own hits. As opposed to pop, 2/3 were under 100 beats per minute. And those records spent 2/3 of the total year at number 1. So they're total opposites. The Billboard country charts were male-heavy as opposed to female-heavy, artist-wise, with only 25% of the number 1s featuring women. Women writers also felt left out at country, with only 7 women writers of 80 writers contributing to the 34 number 1 songs. In country, the average intro length was 14 seconds, which of course is radio, evolving into the song. Lost my train here, where am I? 14 seconds, yes. Although there were no 0 starts, there were 5 3-second intros, all the way up to 30 seconds on Lee Brice's Hard to Love. All used the pronoun you within 20 seconds of the start of the lyric, except for Dierks Bentley's Home, which was about the United States. And that was the only at-rest song last year, 59 beats per minute. All of them obeyed the 2-minute wall rule and gave the listener something different between 2 minutes and 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Repetitions average same as in pop. Best bet in country, where the demographic is women 25 to 40, that's who your market is. 14-second intro, male artist, 100 beats per minute or less, uses the pronoun you within 20 seconds of the start of lyric, has a bridge, middle 8, between 2 minutes and 2 minutes and 30 seconds, has 7 repetitions of title, creates an expectation and fulfills it in 60 seconds, and there will be a 66% chance that the writer will also be the artist. Now, you're seeing some commonalities in here, in the way the listener, the human animal, receives information, their expectations. What I've just given you is data. What it does not tell you is how to write. What it does do is give you a profile of the listener, and this translates and travels. When you go fishing, you do not think like the fisherman. I want to make you stop thinking like the fisherman. I want you to start thinking like the fish. Think like the consumer. Okay, first of all, how many songwriters are actually here? Can you hold your hands up, please? Ah, good. I suppose the rest of you are publishers, producers, industry. Okay. Well, let's talk about involvement as opposed to commitment. Well, I want you to remember back, way back to breakfast. There are two animals involved in the Western breakfast: the chicken and the pig. You have eggs and you have sausage and bacon, whatever on there. Well, the chicken lays an egg and goes off, has a nice meal, maybe builds an app. I don't know what it does, but it goes off, it has a nice time. The pig, ooh, the pig. So it's safe to say that the chicken is involved, the pig is committed. Well, I'm a pig. Welcome to the wonderful world of pigs, writers, because you are committed. Pigs, this is vital. Chickens, listen up. So all that information I gave you, all the research I do on a yearly basis, doesn't mean a thing if you don't know how to apply it. Let's take a quick look at how music affects the human animal. Music is only ever played in public when someone makes money by playing it. Probably not you. I know people say, oh, it's just background music in stores, or that irritating elevator music, or stuff playing in restaurants. But if you hear jazz playing in a restaurant, check the menu. You will be paying 1/3 more for food. Makes you feel expansive. You want a cappuccino, you want a little salad, you'll have a dessert, you'll pay extra for wine. You'll probably be paying 1/3 more for food. But if you hear classical music, you're prepared to pay 1/3 more for food, but you'll have 4 or fewer drinks and leave earlier. Makes you feel a little stiffer. It's a great APRA study. You need to check it online. Stores use music to attract the clientele for whom they stock the shelves. Walmart had its own radio station that played music that controlled the pace that shoppers walked through the store, and the hits that made the shoppers they provided goods for feel comfortable. Everyone disses elevator music, right? Well, in the late 20s in Chicago, developers ran out of land. When you run out of land, you just have to build up. Building up meant you had to have elevators. Well, historically, elevators back in the day, the cables would crack and break, and then the elevators would plunge to the ground and kill everyone once a year. So you'd be a fool to get on an elevator. So an engineer came along, a guy named Otis came along and developed a thing called the self-locking elevator. Cables would break, locks would go in, everybody was happy, kept everyone going. Except because historically, cables would break once a year and kill everybody, no one would get on them, would you? So he went away and he thought about it, and he came back and he put a little speaker up there, and he played this very calming 60 beats per minute music, heart at rest music. The doors closed, elevators went up and down, Mr. Otis got rich. Now, had he played 120 beats per minute or a marching band, their asses would be off there in a heartbeat. It would have been inappropriate. So this is for you as creators of works, judging what you're going to be doing with them. Anyway, where were we? 6? See ya. So anyway, tempo has everything to do with heart rate. For success, match the heart rate of the listener to the use. Because I was checking out some promos and stuff, 124 beats per minute, keeping you up, rocking. For instance, if you're doing your emails, you want 60 beats per minute or at-rest music. If you're active, but not that active, probably driving a car, sounds like drive time to you, 70 to 90 beats per minute. Dancing, aerobics, active things like that, 100 beats per minute or more. So, tempo, let's start with tempo. The tempo of a song tells you a lot about how the consumer is going to use that song. I said that 2/3 of the Billboard #1 pop songs were above 100 beats per minute and spent 2/3 of the year at #1. What does that tell you about the consumer? Pop consumers like to dance. Duh. That also speaks to time of day factor. When do you want to dance? Not 7 o'clock in the morning, unless you're a little weird. I like to dance once in a while at 7, because I like to dance, never mind. Anyway, so when do you want to dance? Evening. In the realm of popular music, for marketing, social media rules, MTV, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, are vital. But once the consumer gets it, there is a high probability that they are doing something high energy. At country, however, radio is still a drive time force. So as I said, on the country charts, the opposite to pop was true. 2/3 of the number ones were under 100 beats per minute and spent 2/3 of the total year at number one. So what are they doing with it? Driving a car or doing something equally distracting. The country charts are much harder to write for because the listeners at drive time are predisposed to hate new music. Matter of fact, everyone really hates new music. No one goes, first of all, let's look at drive time. No one goes looking for new music at 7 o'clock in the morning. What you are looking for as a consumer is local news, local weather, local traffic, and a familiar song. That's what you want. You want something that resonates with you, something that feels comfortable with you. So the listener is basically predisposed to hate something that's unfamiliar. They don't want it. The story has to be incredibly well crafted, and tempo is a major portion of the writer's craft. I was a pop writer in England in the 60s, moved to New York in 1969, and was doing a lot. I was dealing with dance. I learned a valuable lesson that made success very straightforward at the time. I set my beats per minute for 135 beats per minute. That's because the producer of dance music, you match the heart rate of the dancer. And as everyone was doing cocaine at the time, the heart rate was yahoo! They were rocking. So I set my BPMs for 135. Interestingly enough, the heart rate started going down. And about 5 or 6 years ago, it went to 120 beats per minute. Lady Gaga, Beyonce, everybody was working at 120 beats per minute. Then it started creeping up, went to 124, 125, then finally to 128. Recently, however, it has surged into the 130 to 135. And I was speaking with a young producer who works out at Disney. And I was saying, I don't really understand why this increase in the heart rate for dancing. He said, oh, come on, man. He said, you taught me this. I said, what are you talking about? He said, well, remember that you're 135 beats per minute? I said, yeah. He said, well, it's really easy. Caffeine and sugar. Caffeine for days, Starbucks everywhere, caffeine, caffeine. I was in Toronto just before Christmas going to the SOCAN Awards. And on television, I'd keep the TV on for background. And on television, there was an advertisement for the new Cracker Jacks, quote unquote, new Cracker Jacks, which has the equivalent of 1 cup of espresso in every single box. So you might well get ready for 135 beats per minute. Let's take a look at the phenomenal success of Gangnam Style, 133 beats per minute. Look at the lyric. It speaks of drinking coffee. I love a girl who drinks her coffee slowly and languorously. I, however, do a double shot really quickly. It's about drinking coffee. The heart rate is accelerating. Get with the program. Come on, let's go. So, at rest, 60 BPMs when you do your email, under 100 when you're active, but not dancing, not quickly anyway. Over 100 BPMs, whatever, when you're partying down. Okay, let's go back to the country number ones. The listener listens over a period of time to grow into that genre of music. So as drive time is still a huge factor, under 100 beats per minute still dominates the genre. Again, think like the fish. Now, title. Almost all number ones across genres reach the first use of title within 60 seconds or less, some faster. For instance, Taylor Swift has used Never Ever Getting Back Together Again 3 times by the end of the chorus. Carly Rae Jepsen, 4 times before the end of the chorus, like at 1 minute and 3 seconds, 1 minute and 4 seconds. The one constant between genres at number one last year seemed to be repetitions. 7 was the magic number, of course. There's always Rihanna with her diamonds, 38 of them. Repetitions of title are dangerous unless you're dealing with dance. If you're dealing with dance, there's a whole different consideration. It's all about beats per minute because you're dealing with people who are dancing. You're working in 15 to 20-second increments. You change it up enough, some hand claps and dip-to-dips and bop-shoo-bops. In songs, as opposed to dance songs, the title is supposed to be a destination, not the whole song. So you have to treat titles differently. While we're on the subject of titles, in the internet age, the titles have never been more important. They're king. The part of the song that you most remember better be the title. Because after you've heard the song or part of it once and you do a Google search, you'd better be able to find it. Otherwise, there is a pushback. You feel like you're deprived of that song. You want to find it. It's hard to find. So getting noticed and not giving the consumer the opportunity to purchase are major, major, major no-nos. You don't have this some dreamy, I thought the moon shone, and it's really about loving you, baby. You don't do that. Expectations. Now this leads me to the next topic. It's very, very important. Creating an expectation, then fulfilling it in 60 seconds. Most listeners don't go looking for new music. They want something they are familiar with. That's why singers who want to lure people to their websites start with a hit song. That's why the Idols, the X Factors always use hits. Most consumers want songs they have good associations with. So if you're not speaking to me, about me, or a situation I heavily identify with, I mentally tune out. And it won't be long before I physically tune out. I have noticed that in nearly all #1 songs, the first 3 or 4 lines lead directly to the title. Look at your title and then look back at your first 3 or 4 lines. If they don't lead me directly to that title in 60 seconds, you've got a loser. You've got a failure. Because remember, you're creating someone that never existed in a place that never was, doing something that never happened, and I'm supposed to believe it in 60 seconds? You only have 60 seconds to get me. That is the role of the hit songwriter. I was heading for Norway a couple of years ago to teach there, and I wanted to illustrate, create an expectation, fulfill an expectation. So what I did is I wrote down the first 3 or 4 lines of all the #1 songs, pop and country. I wrote the title right after that. It was like one sentence. It led me, you're doing that, you're doing that, you're doing that, so we're falling in love. Nice and easy. The pronoun. Okay, the little big word. I call this is a huge little word. Mainly because, and I've talked to other teachers about this, men always write, she's the greatest thing, she. And women always write, he. Well, when you go to a concert, and say that you're a beautiful woman, and say this guy, the studly looking man, leans over and goes, I love her. You don't give a shit. If he goes, I love you, you're invited in. It's very, very important. Almost all #1 Billboard songs of all genres use the pronoun you within 30 seconds from the start of the lyric. The unfortunate thing for you, songwriter, is that after you use the pronoun you, then you have to tell the listener all about them, how wonderful they are. Because it's called playing the you card. Once you play the you card and you invite that listener in, you gotta tell them how great they are. I was going to London to teach in October of last year, and I do at least 2 classes there every time I go. One for newer writers, which is great fun, but the other one for #1 writers. So I always get the top 10, the UK top 10, mainly because at least 50% of that will never work outside the United Kingdom. This won't work, mainly because you're dealing with non-commercial radio. What they do is they generally reflect, quote-unquote, performance songs. Songs that work brilliantly at 10 o'clock at night, but not necessarily at drive time. What I mean by this, has anyone come up to you and said, we just love your music after you play it, right? They come up at 11 o'clock at night and say, I love your music. They don't mean that. They're lying to you. What they mean is, wow, you got a great personality. Geez, you sang the brains out of that song. Wow, I love this club. It's so cool here. Jeez, do you know how many beers they've got here? Do you know the wine list? Have you seen the bar snacks? Holy shit, this is amazing. Oh, I like the song. Where the money is, the song is an orphan. All the rest of it, the great personality, Jesus sang the crap out of it, boy, the bar snacks, blah, blah, the ambience of the thing, that's all gone. They're going to listen to that song cold and naked. And if it doesn't speak to them, about them, or a situation they heavily identify with, they're gone. Same way you would be gone. Anyway, the number one song the week I went to England to teach was by The Script, called Hall of Fame. And it opened with the pronoun you. I returned to Nashville the following week. The number one country record was by an artist called Hunter Hayes, Wanted. And the opening pronoun was you. Does it work? Think like the fish. Again, if you use the pronoun you have to tell them how great they are. It is called playing the you card. You do not do it. And again, this is the problem. Remember why you write. Tell the world about you. I don't give a shit about you. I don't care about you. I want to hear about me as you see me. That's your job as writers. Remember every song that you heard when you were growing up, you know who it was about? It was about you. The writer of the song gave you as they saw you. You didn't care about the writer. You didn't say, gee, I wonder how the writer felt. You didn't say that. They invited you in, they did their job. Well, it is your turn to do yours. Okay, detail. A dear friend of mine, Hall of Fame writer, as a matter of fact, an inductee of several Halls of Fame, Harlan Howard once told me he always wrote for women. He was of the opinion that women physically bought 50% of all records made and made men buy the other 50%. That means detail is a huge factor in hit songs. In my research, I have found that the more graphic the detail given, the greater the chance of success. Try saying to a woman, you know, I was at this event and they were all dressed funny. Yeah, I don't know, they were just very strange dressed. And she'll say, well, how many people were there? What were they wearing? They want all the details. With men, it's like, yeah, well, I don't know, sure, there was some, whatever, you can say to men, but women, you're singing to women. As a matter of fact, I have friends who own restaurants, and the major consideration for them is location, location, location. For the writer, it should be what's in it for the woman, what's in it for the woman, what's in it for the woman. If there's nothing in it for the woman, see ya. Okay. A lot of people are confused, by the way, by Taylor Swift and the fact she sells almost as much physical product as she sells digital downloads. Now, you would think her demographic would 14, 16-year-old girls would just digitally download. Well, look at how she communicates to women. The first line of "We are never, ever getting back together again." In the very first line, she says, "The first time we broke up," which means this guy is a serial offender. He's a jerk. Then she comes, about 2 lines later, she says, then you came to me and said you needed space? When a man says to a woman, look, we just need a little time apart to consider options, she hears you doing somebody else. Then in the last line of the verse, yahoo, she says, and you said you love me, trust me? When a man says to a woman, trust me, run like a bandit. So every mother and grandmother knew immediately that Taylor Swift was the perfect guide to bring their daughters and granddaughters through puberty. She was nobody's fool. And they were right. Rhyme scheme, this is really important. All the great writers do it, and they've done it for my lifetime. No matter which 6 commercial structures you work in, and you will note that although there are 7 shapes or forms or structures, I call them structures because they're basic outlines. Only 6 of them make money, and of the songs making money, changing rhyme scheme section to section is vital. I mean, look at the Lady Gaga stuff and whatever. In every structure that makes money, by changing rhyme scheme section to section, what you do is you alert the listener something different is coming their way. I wish I had, my PowerPoint only lasts about an hour, so I've only got 30 minutes to do this. So, but Carly Rae Jepsen changes rhyme scheme section to section, verse, lift, climb, or pre-chorus, or bridge, whichever you choose to call it. By the way, if there's no changing of rhyme scheme verse to verse, it's a pushback to the listener. Being consistent, however, verse to verse is called integrity of rhyme. Once you establish a rhyme pattern, you have to honor it with that next verse. And unfortunately, recently there's been a rise in ensemble writing. Like if you look at Black Eyed Peas, where they write their own verses and whatever, they'll change pronouns. Oh, he's so blah, 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 and then you are the one for me, and they change rhyme scheme. And unfortunately, most young writers hear that and think it's acceptable. It is not, because what it does, it messes with the whole concept. The song will be recorded and used in different television shows. Structure. Craft is everything. Take an automobile. You're always going to need a fuel gauge, whether gas or electric. You're always going to need rearview mirrors, spare tires, sound systems. All cars are different, but they're all basically the same. Well, it's the same way with hit songs. And you notice I said hit songs. As I mentioned before, there are 7 basic shapes or structures of the popular songs. I, being a hit hound that I am, I've really got to delve into this, because this is fascinating, that 80% of all pop records, number one, are written in exactly the same structure. And yes, I don't know what you're going to call it, but I call it a lift or a channel or a pre-chorus or a climb. In the United Kingdom, it's called a bridge. But we'll call it a pre-chorus. Verse, pre-chorus, chorus. Verse, pre-chorus, chorus. Vestigial, little 2-line middle 8, or a rap, or whatever you choose to put in there. Lift, chorus, and out, or chorus and out. They are basically written in exactly the same structure, which means the expectation of that person dancing is they want it in that form. In country, they use like 4 to 5 different forms. In different countries, I was looking at Passenger in Australia, which is written in a rondo structure, which is 6th form, which is a beautiful form. But again, it's going to be heavy lifting for it in the United States. Accessibility, this is really incredibly important. 1-syllable words are your friend. Many years ago, I was asked to do lyrics to Eurovision Song Contest winners. I was a hot new kid in London, and so, oh yeah, write lyrics to this. So I was given the German one, the Klieben Sie keine, I'm like, geez. And you know, you're 20, 21, 20, and you're going, man, I found that 1-syllable words were my friend. My friend Paul Williams, he wrote, like, we've only just begun to live white lace and promises. There's only 3 multisyllabics in that whole thing. Only, begun, and promises. Okay? But they set the tone for it. Open vowel sounds, consonants are your titles. So accessibility, 1-syllable words are really, really your friend. Okay. Structure, craft. Whee! Many years ago, I was struck by how trivial Steam's na na, hey, hey, kiss him goodbye was. Well, na 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 na, hey, 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 kiss him goodbye. Well, the thing about that particular song is that everyone can sing along with it. Call and response is a major portion of every hit, especially in dance. It's being used a lot more in country too, but especially in dance. It's a staple. Na-nas, yos, whoa-wos, hey-hey, plain old uhs are the devices that invite the listener in to sing along. Bearing in mind that most people don't sing very well, they can na-na-na-na-na forever. Even the idiot can do that. It's called call and response. Matter of fact, it's used a lot in Southern churches. Give me an amen, amen. Once someone yells back, then they bought into the premise. That's what you want. That's what they're used for. Call and response is a vital thing. Melody. The human animal is an interesting beast. Now, you've got to realize this. Melody, no matter how small, is vital to hits. What invites you into a song is melody. What keeps you there is lyric. So, and I have friends that say, oh, you know, I don't know the words to the song, I really don't care, blah, blah, blah. But you play the song and you have them sing along, they know all the words. They just don't know that they did. What invited them into the song was the melody. What kept them there was the lyric. Now, the human animal is a weird, weird, weird animal because we cannot multitask when we hear, okay? Don't know whether you know this, but this is a fact about the human animal. What you do, and the classical composers knew this, so they would start with a line, bum, bada, bum, bada, bum, 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 bada, bum, and the next passage would be do, 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 whatever. Next passage. At the end, they'd play all these portions together, and you would hear them all, right? No. You would hear one and remember the others. So, where you tell your story, you remain linear. You do not change your chord till you change your thought. And somewhere you've got to tell me a story to invite me in. However, once you get to your melody, then resolve it. It's really important. Where am I? Oh, yes. Moving rapidly along here. Okay. Wherever you position your hook or title is probably where your melody is going to be. So have a simple message that won't be lost by the listener deferring to melody. And I remember watching the rise of rap in the early 80s. And it was great. It was wonderful. But I was watching because there's no melody in it. So what they used were samples, which of course resonated with the listener. They'd hear something that was like a familiar hit song to them. Then after a while, they kind of wore that out. So after a while, they started using whole sections of choruses. Because you've got to remember that if they introduced melody into rap, the human animal would defer to melody. They wouldn't concentrate on what that rapper was saying. And it's very, very important that you remain linear when you're doing that. So Rihanna and Eminem, Love the Way You Lie. So, I mean, it's a beautiful song if you've ever heard the song. They just took that thing in, that invited the listener in, then Eminem rapped along with it. Very, very cool. Well, rocking. We're coming down home stretch here. Yahoo! All right, remember that it simply doesn't work to rap over melody. They would defer to the melody and not hear the rap. So, let me review the bidding here. Tempo, theme, accessibility, pronouns, rhyme scheme, melody, create an expectation, fulfill it, are all factors that are pretty much a constant in monster hits. In actual fact, all that changes from genre to genre is vocabulary, technology, and varying tempo. Now, the role of the standalone songwriter who is outside the equation like me, as opposed to the singer-songwriter, generally they call me in when all else has failed. And the job for me is to write a script for that singer to communicate to their audience that makes them look good to that audience, hopefully to women. To invite the listener in quickly, create an expectation, and fulfill it in 60 seconds. Matter of fact, I have here a song checklist, which is from my book, The Murphy's Laws of Songwriting. And it's basically this. Song checklist. 60 seconds to first use of title. Did you explain the premise of the song? Did you establish the structure of the song? Did you invite the listener in? What would a distracted woman at worst time of day think of the character of the singer? Is the singer's role as portrayed in the song consistent with the image of the artist you're going to pitch it to or that you're surrounding it? Is the story set up with ear-catching new detail, not the same old rubbish? Something, I've never seen that diamond ear on the wall. I'm making stuff up, but you know what I mean. Come up with a purple tiara on a red flower or some shit like that, whatever, I don't know. Is the hook or title properly set up? Is the hook or title memorable because it was properly set up? And the melody complements it. Is the language consistent with character and setting? And remember, first of all, for everybody, the more fun you have, the more money you will make. So have fun. And hopefully you'll have as much fun as I've already had at this conference. And I just want to thank you very much and be well.
Wow.